Hi there, y'all. I just wanted to introduce this video series I've been making, my Keystone Master Guide videos. My goal with these video series is to get players who aren't otherwise particularly experienced with Mythic Plus to be to a point they're comfortable enough to walk in and really push for their 15s. Now that it's not just a title and a mount, but also allows you to upgrade your gear, a lot more players are interested in really pushing for those 15s, which unfortunately can seem a little bit intimidating to some players who haven't been doing them. And the reason for this, I think, is a lack of knowledge and comfort, not so much being bad at the game. It's no matter who you are, when you're still learning, you're going to feel kind of bad at the game. And so I want to help you guys learn so that you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when you go into your 15s in order to get your Keystone Master achievement. A lot of really exceptional streamers and their video creators make some exceptional video content, but in my experience, a lot of their guides that you can find for these dungeons, they're very basic, like Wowhead level guides of here's how the dungeon looks. That is also like a normal guide. Or they're like super high level, here's me and my friends timing a 25 with our weirdo strat that no one would actually do with a pug. There's really not a lot of in between to help players who are really just kind of trying to have a stable, relatively safe push towards their 15s. And my friends, as a result, seem to feel kind of intimidated by the idea of doing 15s. So my whole goal with these video series is to give people the information they need to feel comfortable moving into the Keystone Master keys. And so my intent is to do a walkthrough of every dungeon, and I'll talk about, the order of the pulls, what's dangerous in each pull, what you might need to focus on, interrupt priorities, things you might need to use your defensives on, mechanics for bosses and for trash that may or may not, you might not have noticed them in lower keys, but they become something to worry about in higher keys. Basically to let you know what you need to do, because of course, unfortunately, not unfortunately, I love this about it. Mythic Plus is the highest personal responsibility level of PvE content in the game that most players will do. Depending on if they choose to Mythic Raid or push Mythic Plus or both. But I don't raid, so to me, Mythic Plus is where you do your personal responsibility, and I think that's where the intimidation comes from. Because, of course, players, they don't want to make a mistake and kill a key, because that's the worst feeling in the world. I know I've done it many times. And so I think that's one of my real goals here is, as of the videos that I've already recorded, virtually all of them have a relatively big mistake. I know that we've already got messed up stealth skips that we end up pulling a bunch of trash we didn't mean to. We've got bolstering too much on single mobs. We've got explosives going off. We've got me standing and stuff. So the whole point, and we got really low DPS and slow pulling tanks. We've got all the hits here that you'll run into in pugging, and we're still timing the keys. And that's not to brag. I'm not a very good player. You will see me make a lot of mistakes myself in these keys. The point I'm getting at here is, don't worry. These are totally doable and you can do it. We just have to get you that little bit of knowledge so you're more comfortable doing it, and that's what these videos are all about. So that's the intro. I also want to talk a little bit about more general things you should do to prepare that aren't dungeon specific, since all of the other guide videos are going to be dungeon specific. So let's start with the first thing that I think is the most important thing to prepare for doing Mythic Plus, and that's having a good user interface. So as you can see, I mostly use ElvUI with weak auras. So you don't have to use ElvUI. You can use anything that works for you. I like ElvUI because it handles most everything you should need. It takes some setup and getting used to, but once you're used to it, it is wonderful and I love it. That said, I did need to customize it a lot for what I want to see. So what should you want to see? As a healer, you might want to see, you want to see all the debuffs that everyone has. You'll want to see, all the debuffs that actually matter, such as things that are going to cause them to take damage, things you can cleanse, things that might be slowing them. All sorts of debuffs are very useful to see as a healer. You'll want to see when tanks have their defensives up, things of that nature. And then I also like to see when people have their big DPS cooldowns, because I want to make sure that they're protected if they accidentally pull threat, or if they're targeted for a mechanic that I can help them avoid so that they can keep doing their big DPS. So there's all sorts of things you might want to see as a healer. As a tank, you probably want to know when your healer has externals to help you out on a pull versus not. You probably want to know when your DPS have their big DPS cooldowns, because you can pull bigger versus smaller, things of that nature. as a DPS, who knows? All you do is damage. I don't know. But no, for reals, you want to be able to, for example, DPS, you've got your DPS shamans and your mages and your moonkin. You guys have a decurse button. I know it's a weird concept, but you do have one. So being able to see curses is going to be very important for you. Same with, monks and disease and poison, and ret paladins and prot paladins with disease and poison and things of that nature. Because each healer, for example, like as a druid, I can't cleanse diseases. So if there's a paladin in the group, I really hope that they're cleansing diseases. So making sure that you can see what you can cleanse, whether you're a healer or not, is really useful as well. So just being able to see all these sorts of things on your UI is very useful. And then weak auras. As you can see, and as you'll see in these videos, I have a lot of weak auras. My motto is, if something kills you once, that's really unfortunate. If something kills you twice, you need to make a weak aura because you're bad at it, is where my million weak auras came from. I'm bad at a lot of things, so I make a weak aura to make me not so bad at them. So I will link down below in the comments a lot of weak auras that I use, some add-ons that I use, such as I'll talk about the add-on that I was going to mention here in just a minute, so I'll hold that for now. But I'll link some stuff below. However, I cannot recommend enough that you either build your own UI, and I don't mean like from scratch making Lua files, but get your ELV UI and customize it the way you want. Sure, definitely get some of the big super important weak auras from people, but also consider making your own weak auras for things that you personally struggle with or you would like to know, because using someone else's UI just as it's given to you is kind of like driving someone else's car. The car works and it can get you to the store, but it's going to feel really uncomfortable. The seat's not quite right. You have to adjust all the mirrors, and maybe everything is just a little bit too far away for your short arms. You can tell I'm short by this description. It's kind of like that. It's functional if you just get someone else's UI or weak auras, but you'll really be able to be more comfortable and effective in your own car with your own UI that you created. The next thing that I would say is make sure that you have your keys bound. I know this seems kind of silly, but for some people who are struggling with Mythic Plus, they haven't fully bound all of their keys. Maybe they've bound all of their most important DPS keys, but a lot of those weird little niche spells, they maybe haven't had to bind before. So for example, Ret Paladins have a single target slow. I forget what they call it. They keep changing the name of it every expansion. But it's just a single target slow. That's something that, if you're a raider, you probably don't ever really use. I don't know what's in Nathria. Maybe you do use it. But so you need to be able to, and also you might not ever be asked to bubble people in raid, but you might be asked to bubble people in Mythic Plus. So you want to make sure that virtually anything you could ever possibly need to use is keybound. Now, it might not need to be keybound to something you can easily hit, but you want things that you could use to be available to you. You really don't want to be in a dungeon just sitting here like this, oh, I gotta heal, oh no, and then you can't move because you're using your mouse in order to hit your buttons, as opposed to actually moving while you can cast your spells properly. So, what you need to do is you need to bind on all your keys. I will not spend too much time talking about key binding, but I will link below a video from Nagura, which is exceptional about key binding. So highly recommend that. And then also I use an add-on called Click. I've also heard it called Cleek, which creates it's somewhat similar to a mouse over macro for most of my spells that you can't see on my bars, but there they be. So the only other thing that I like, since all of the other videos are going to be dungeon specific, the only other thing that's not dungeon specific that I want to talk about is bringing your consumables. So what consumables do I bring to Mythic Plus and use regularly in Mythic Plus? Veiled Augment Rune. You can get these from your mission table, or from like looking for raid or looking for dungeon bags. Mana potions if you're a healer, or I don't know, maybe arcane mages use them, I don't know. But I use both of them. There are reasons to use each one in different situations, so I have both of them. Every single person should have a stack of healing potions and have it key bound. You need to have them and you need to use them. Flasks. If you can't go invisible by yourself, you should have potions of the hidden spirit. And honestly, I can stealth, but I still have them. Just if I'm really nervous about something, I'll sometimes invis pop. If you're DPS, or probably tanks, you need to have DPS potions. I have these because sometimes I'm moonkin. but I don't typically use DPS potions as a healer. People who are pushing really high keys do, but we're just talking about 15s, so don't you worry about that. Heavy Desolate Armor Kits give you a fair amount of extra health, which can really help save the day in some keys. Your buff food, whatever's appropriate for your class. Your weapon oil, weight stone, or sharpening stone, whatever's appropriate for your class. And then I also recommend carrying around some drums. Obviously, ideally, you're going to have a lust or heroism type of class. However, even if you do have one of those, there's sometimes situations when that person didn't realize that the debuff was still up, they hit their button, now it's on cooldown, but you really need that heroism. So it's better to have this crappy one than none at all. So that's why I carry around drums, and as you can see, I've used 6 of them since last I restocked, so there is some value there. And then healers, definitely make sure you just, honestly, you know what, I'm going to change that. Everyone should have normal food, because you might be asked to eat through Grievous so that the healer doesn't have to sit in there and heal you while they could be eating mana back. Everyone should have food of some sort, so I have Stygian Stew. And healers should definitely have it for mana, because as much as we love having mages around for free food, unfortunately they're not always around. So, the only other thing that I think is really important no matter what dungeon you're going into is, of course, knowledge. And that's what the rest of the videos are going to hopefully impart onto you. So, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy these videos that are coming up. If you do, please like, comment, subscribe, etc. It does help me with the algorithm, of course. And in particular, if you have any questions about anything you see in the videos, anything you don't see in the videos that you would have liked to see explained differently or better, or anything like that, please just put it in the comments and I will do what I can to help y'all out.